Around the year 400, St. Augustine wrote down a perfect description of a very stubborn problem. He said if no one asks him what time is, he knows exactly what it is. But the moment he actually tries to explain it to someone else, he finds he has absolutely no idea. For centuries, humanity has tried to solve this paradox by looking in the wrong places. In his book, Beyond Time, philosopher and researcher Boris Kriger argues that we have been searching for the mechanics of time in systems that are incapable of producing it. Take Henri Bergson. In the early 20th century, he won a Nobel Prize for his writings on the subject. Bergson claimed that real time is an unmeasurable, continuous flow, a concept he called duration. He argued that dividing time into seconds or minutes destroyed its true nature. Kriger dismantles this idea with precision. Bergson accurately described what time feels like, comparing it to a melody or a rolling snowball, but he mistook his own metaphors for a physical solution. He described the experience of a river without ever explaining what the water is made of. This reliance on intuition left philosophy highly vulnerable when it finally collided with hard science. That collision happened in Paris on April 6, 1922. Bergson stepped onto a stage to publicly challenge Albert Einstein regarding the theory of relativity. Bergson argued that Einstein's math ignored the lived, subjective reality of time. Einstein replied with a single, devastating sentence: "The time of the philosophers does not exist." That brief encounter drove a wedge between the two disciplines. Physicists went back to their equations, measuring how gravity stretches clocks, while philosophers retreated to their salons to debate the nature of consciousness. Neither group had the whole picture. To fix this 100-year-old error, we have to bypass the philosophical poetry entirely. We must now look directly inside the human skull and observe exactly how the brain actively deceives us. If you map the neural architecture of a human brain, you will not find a central ticking clock. Instead, the brain relies on a decentralized committee of structures, like the basal ganglia and the cerebellum, that constantly negotiate to construct a crude sense of passing moments. This chart tracks human neural processing speeds against biological age. Kriger proposes a metabolic model to explain why birthdays seem to accelerate as we age. A young hippocampus fires rapidly, capturing a massive amount of temporal data, like a camera shooting at a high frame rate. As metabolic decline sets in, the frame rate drops. An objective year is recorded with fewer subjective frames, making it feel remarkably brief. This internal stopwatch is incredibly volatile. If you experience sudden fear or excitement, your brain floods with dopamine. That chemical surge forces the neural machinery to run faster, packing more data into a single second. An objective minute of terror stretches out, creating a highly elastic hour. Without constant calibration from the outside world, this internal system completely derails. In 1962, geologist Michael Siffre lowered himself into a dark alpine cave for 2 months without a clock or sunlight. When his team finally pulled him out, he believed the date was September 14th. It was actually September 20th. He had entirely lost 6 days of objective reality. Our biological clock stretches under fear, compresses with age, and drifts violently in the dark. The continuous flow of time that we experience every day is a localized, highly adaptive neural illusion. The illusion gets even deeper when we look at how we retrieve the past. You likely imagine your memory as a chronological filing cabinet with early childhood in the back and yesterday at the front. The reality is a flat archive. This visualization represents the brain's actual storage network. Past events do not sit on a neat timeline. The memory of your 10th birthday and what you ate for breakfast this morning exist simultaneously in this atemporal space, linked only by emotional or sensory associations. You only experience memories in a logical, chronological order because your hippocampus uses specific neurons called time cells. At the exact moment of recall, these cells grab those scattered, timeless fragments and force them into a strict sequence. The linear timeline of your life is a narrative constructed by the hippocampus to make sense of this disorganized archive. If our internal sense of before and after is a biological assembly, we have to look past the skull to find the physical engine that actually drives the universe. To find the answer, we have to leave biology behind and zoom out to the macroscopic scale. Kriger's research points to a radical cosmological framework. Go back to the initial moment of the universe. In this model, the early cosmos was a dense manifold where all velocity was locked completely into pure rotational motion. Everything was spinning. This geometric model illustrates how that spin evolves. The arrows represent rotational speed. Conservation of angular momentum dictates that as this sphere expands, its rotation has to slow down. An expanding universe must decelerate. But the velocity lost from that slowing rotation does not vanish. It converts directly into a new, forward-pushing linear wave. Kriger calls this the ledger time model. Time is the freed velocity budget of a winding-down cosmos. It is a literal, physical byproduct generated by the deceleration of the universe. As the cosmic rotation slows, this released energy creates the sequence of moments we perceive. We are living within the surge of velocity freed by a decelerating cosmos. Augustine's mystery finally finds a concrete physical anchor. Time is the literal exhaust of a slowing universe, the observable consequence of a cosmos that hasn't finished spinning. To explore the full mechanics behind this theory,